Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing an overview of the Fall of House of X, Rise of the Powers of X trade paperback. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're going to be doing an overview of this trade paperback. This is the finale of the Krakoa era for the X-Men. This is Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of X, written by Dugan, Gillen, with art by Roranek, Silva, Vecchio, Valenza, and Curiel. That's there on the side there. And there is the back cover. This retails for a whopping $50. $50, y'all. This contains Fall of the House of X 1 through 5, Rise of the Powers of X 1 through 5, and I think most of material from X-Men 35 from the 2021 volume. So, what is this? What's the Krakoa era, Brent? Well, the Krakoa era started over here in House of X and Powers of X, and since I bought this trade paperback, I have not read it. I've read the issues as they were coming out. Don't get me wrong. I have kept up with the X-Men, but I have not opened this trade paperback since I did the overview video numerous years ago. This one contains 1 through 6 of House of X and Powers of X. This one was $45. So I don't know if it's the same. I feel like $50 is a lot of money for 11 issues. Now, 35 is massive. You know, I feel like probably the #1 issues of these, Fall of House and Rise of Powers, are double sized, so maybe it's, 14 issues worth of stuff in terms of content. But $50 for a trade paperback, y'all, that is insane. But basically, the Krakoa era started here with House of X and Powers of X. This is a great story. Go pick it up. Then you have X of Swords, which I don't have. Another expensive trade paperback. I think that was like $75. And then the Hickman run, this was written by and conceived of by Jonathan Hickman. Aside from the New Mutants and X-Men series he wrote, I think they're doing a collection of his X-Men issues, like just the Hickman stuff. So I might pick that up. Hickman stuff ends in Inferno, and this is only 4 issues, but this is thick. This is, I feel like these were all double-sized, but this kind of sets off, Inferno kind of sets off where Fall of House of X and Rise of Powers of X go. Of course, there's another event after Inferno called fucking X and 10 Deaths of Wolverine, I think is a little bit, I don't know if it's necessary at all. Sins of Sinister probably really is, but there's a whole bunch of stuff with Orcus in here that you're getting the resolution to, and Orcus isn't, an organization that is basically dedicated to taking down the mutants. So here's your credits page. Writer Jerry Dugan on Fall of the House of X, and then Kieran Gillen, writer on Rise of the Powers of X 1 through 5. And then on X-Men 35, you have Jerry Dugan, Al Ewing, Kieran Gillen, with a lot of artists. Some of them, Lucas Wernick, R.B. Silva, Josh Cassara, Philip Noto, Lionel Francis Yu, Walt Simonson, etc., etc. Lots of inkers everywhere. Lots of colorists. So this one, they're kind of doing the same thing that Hickman likes to do in his books, where he doesn't put the covers up front. It just jumps you right into the story. Like this is the Inferno one. Doesn't give you a cover. Just starts you off with these white pages. They kept the white pages going with this era of X-Men after Hickman left. But I wish there was like a recap page to just set up who Orcus was. Although they do have this one, I forgot. So it's not up front, but it's there. The Trial of Cyclops, this is chapter 1. I can't remember if this was a cover or not. It's kind of confusing because there's that first couple of pages. I feel like maybe this should be up front and then start the issue. Although maybe that's not a cover page because it's continues from here. So yeah, it's a little confusing. I'm interested to read this. Like obviously when I read this, I'm gonna go read these other 2 trades first, and then I'll come back to this. This one I was reading in single issues was all over the place. So I'm interested to see how just the main 2 series combine as one, right? Because that is there was like one-shots that were happening at the same time as this one. X-Men by Jerry Dugan also had issues that were kind of tying into what was happening in here. X-Men Forever was happening. That was kind of all over the place, having to do with this group of characters here with Rasputin and, oh gosh, not Prodigy. The guy that talks to the tree, Krakoa, and Xavier, Phoenix, Rachel Summers, talking to her. The whole idea of enigmas is all over the place. So really interested to see how this plays into it. And do you feel those missing issues? Because I felt like out of everything, there were some where the X-Men book that by Jerry Dugan, not included in here, would pick up on a thread and just carry it forward and you know, kind of solve that issue. But they wouldn't really pick up on it over on this book. Now, the X-Men Forever stuff, I don't know if there was a Phoenix issue or not, but it dealt a lot with Jean Grey and the Phoenix and the White Hot Room and all of where these mutants were, and explained the thing of enigmas, I think, if I remember correctly, more than this book did. I could be wrong, could be in here, but this is some really wild X-Men stuff. Again, you have the conceit of two series happening at the same time. You have the X-Men dealing with Orcus in the fall of the House of X, and then Rise of the Powers of X deals with the Enigma stuff, or not the Enigma, it's called the Dominion. Again, hella confusing. But it's all presented in chapters here as like chapter 1 through 10. So that's what you're getting through here. The Mr. Sinister stuff is going to be confusing if you have not read Sins of Sinister. That was really weird. So yeah, here's all the Dominion ending. And then at the end, you have what feels like all of X-Men 35. And this is the end of the Krakoa era. And obviously, this is wrapping up threads from like X-Force and Wolverine and the X-Men book and what you just read in the first 10 chapters. Although it does kind of throw Apocalypse in here as a villain right away, as opposed to what he had been doing in the last 10 chapters in this book. So that is kind of a strange thing that they're doing. Anyway, all this kind of feeds into the new series. You have Era of Apocalypse that's kind of set up on this page, and then the new From the Ashes era, you know, Xavier kind of doing what he's doing there, and then this little epilogue with Nightcrawler. Now, this is weird that this is shown in here, because there's a whole, I think it was a mini-series or 2 issues of X-Men Blue that kind of talked about the parentage of Nightcrawler and Mystique and Destiny, which is this woman over here. And that feels really, really necessary to understand what the hell this is. Like, I would have kept that, I would have taken this out and put that into an X-Men Blue trade paperback, honestly, because it does not belong here. It's a cute little story. It's by Chris Claremont, after all, Salvador LaRocca doing the art. It's a great little story, but it heavily dives into everything that he discovered in the X-Men Blue, which basically we thought Mystique was his mother and the demon Azazel was his father, right? So he's got the tail because he is son of a demon, and he's blue because he's the son of Mystique. Well, that is not the case. It turns out that Mystique shapeshifted into a man and impregnated Destiny, and Destiny is his actual mother, and Mystique is his father, mother, something. Again, it really needs to be, like, this tale needs to be included in that trade paperback, because that's what makes sense for it. It doesn't, I don't feel like it really belongs here, because it's not really discussed at all in the main series. This is dealing with Aurora and Mars, and I didn't even talk about Mars. You know, that needs a whole trade paperback. X-Men Red and the Hellfire Gala, like where they terraform Mars, was a great issue of X-Men. I'm gonna miss this era of X-Men. We did a whole podcast of it on Comic Timing to kind of explain all of this. If you want to go and listen to that, it was a couple episodes ago. It's in the 230 something. I want to say it was like 236 or 241. Anyway, It's up on the Comic Timing YouTube channel. Go check that out. But we go into all this history from people who are bigger X-Men fans than me. But yeah, to me, this ending felt a little lackluster when I was reading it. So again, I'm not the hugest X-Men fan, and all the stuff with the Dominions just boggles my mind. So I didn't really understand what was going on in some parts here. Like, to me, the Orcus stuff is more what I was interested in, not the Dominion stuff, but to each their own. You know, everybody has their own sect of X-Men that they like better than the others. I was happy to see Apocalypse come back in this book, because he had been missing for a long, long time, since the end of X of Swords. And to me, he was one of the most interesting characters that was coming out of House of X, Powers of X, because he was a villain. And all of a sudden, at the end of this volume, he's like a friend of the X-Men now. He's like part of the team. And then to see him come back here just kind of redoing the same thing he was is kind of disappointing. Like, I liked him as a friend to the X-Men. But yeah, there's Phoenix stuff in here. There's Mr. Sinister stuff in here. There's X-Men battling Orcus, battling Sentinels in here. If you're a fan of X-Men, you owe it to yourself to read the Krakoa era, honestly. If you've skipped it, you've missed out on some really great comics. Starts out really, really awesome. Ends, I think, okay. So-so. We'll see where the X-Men go from here in the future. But this one, like, you know, for me, the Krakoa era is my X-Men era. I know I've read Grant Morrison's stuff. I've read Ultimate X-Men, most of that. But the stuff that I really latched onto was here in the Krakoa era, and so this is its end. So I'm gonna try and collect as much of it as I want to, not all of it, because there's a lot of trade paperbacks, a lot of comics in the Krakoa era. But I'm gonna try and collect the essential stuff for now. We'll see. But yeah, that's my overview of Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of X. Quite a mouthful of a title. You can go and check it out right now in your local comic shop or from bookstores. And we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.